Hey everyone, it's Jen, and I'm currently at Barnes & Noble in Grand Junction, Colorado. I had it come up here this weekend to get a new battery for my car, and I wanted to do a video for you in like TJ Maxx or someplace, but it was super loud. It's 1 week before Christmas, so I don't know what I was thinking. So I had a thought to come to Barnes & Noble. It's about 9 p.m. at night. I thought it'd be a little bit quieter. It definitely is a lot quieter than TJ Maxx was or any place else I went today, but still not particularly quiet. There's music playing. There's actually still quite a few people here. But I thought what I would do is just share with you some of the authors and books that I've enjoyed. I'm sure I won't find everything here, but I don't keep a book collection at all. When I read books, paper books, I usually, trade them out or just get rid of them or give them to other people to read. And I read a lot of books on Kindle, so I don't have like a collection of books to show you, but coming to the bookstore is kind of the next best thing. So I'm starting in the science fiction fantasy section, and right here first we'll talk about Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide series. So I've read all of these books a very long time ago now, but I've read all 5 novels, so you can see there's a complete set here. I read these back in college, and I remember like reading this, going back and forth to school and on the train, and just laughing my mind out on the train and making people want to move away from me because those books are so funny. So let's see what else we got. Also, Taylor Anderson, the Destroyerman series, and I've read probably the first 5 of these. There's a lot of books in this series. So let's see. I think there's got a list here somewhere, right? Hopefully. Maybe not. Why does this one not have a list in it? Oh, here they are. All right, so this is the Destroyerman series. The first one is Into the Storm, Crusade, Maelstrom, Distant Thunders, Rising Tides. I've probably read those first 5 or so, and then I just kind of lost interest. Usually is what happens when I read series that are very, very long, is I lose interest after the first 5 or 6 books. So basically, if you don't know anything about these books, this is about modern day ships being transported into the past, or into, into another world. And this one, there's a lot of similar type of books to this one, in movies as well. Like if you've ever seen I think it's the Poseidon Effect, very similar concept. So as you can see, they have given him quite a bit of shelf space. As we've got some here, and then we've got more down here. So these books are very popular. They've given him a lot of shelf space. This must be the newest one, River of Bones, Destroyerman series. They're actually really good books. Let's see if there's anything else in this section that I've read. Let's see. Oh, Foundation. So, Foundation novels. I don't think I've actually read all of them. Isaac Asimov. I've definitely read the first couple. I think I've read through Foundation and Empire. I might have read Second Foundation. No, I don't think I've read Second Foundation. I think I read the first 3. So these are interesting books. A little dry, but definitely interesting. And that's really all I've read of Isaac Asimov. Let's see. So look up here. Oh, Andy Weir. I haven't read this book, but I've read the one that they made the movie out of, The Martian. Fun book, very short, quick read. So this must be, is this a follow-up? It's about a new character. I haven't read this one at all. But he's a decent writer. I'll probably get around to reading it. Oh, Greg Bear. I don't know if I've read Eon. Let's take a look and see what else I've read of his. So these are some of his other books. I've read Eternity, which is really good. And I'm pretty sure I've read The Forge of God. I don't know if I've read Eon or not. Let me see. 21st century was on the brink of nuclear confrontation when the 300-kilometer long stone flashed out of nothingness and into Earth's orbit. NASA, NATO, and the UN sent explorers to the asteroid's surface and discovered marvels and mysteries to drive researchers mad. I definitely have not read this. Greg Bear, where was he? I don't want to put things out of order. No, I think he was up here. Let's see if I can get him back in there without wrecking everything. There we go. Close enough. Okay, so remember I was talking about the books of Taylor Anderson's, that saying it's like a subgenre of its own, that type of story. And this is another author of that type of story. So John Birmingham, I think the first book in this series was Weapons of Choice? The first one? No, Without Warning is the first one. So there's 3 books, Without Warning, After America, and Angels of Vengeance. And, okay, so actually the one I'm thinking of is Weapons of Choice is first, the Axis of Time trilogy. Weapons of Choice, Designated Targets, and Final Impact. So those are the ones I've read. I've also read After America as well. And let me see if they've got... so it's like their alternate history, post-apocalyptic fiction, and espionage-fueled thriller. So the Axis of Time series is, if I remember correctly, I get a lot of these different series confused, is contemporary, basically ships and technology goes back in time. And if I remember for that one, they go back to World War II. And it's a trilogy. It's very fun read. Very, very quick reads. Kind of almost like a bit pulpy. This book is pretty good too. Let's see. So, let's see. The world changed forever when a massive wave of energy slammed into North America and wiped out 99% of the population. As the United States lay in ruins, chaos erupted across the globe. So this is like post-apocalyptic. It's kind of similar to the Change novels by, what is his name? Sterling something or other. But it's like there's no explanation for why things happened. But it's an entertaining book. I liked it. I like him. Let's see. And of course, we got some classics right here. We've got Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I've read that. And I've read The Martian Chronicles. They're both short reads. I really like The Martian Chronicles more than Fahrenheit 451, but they're both good. Also, years ago, probably like, I don't know, 80s or 70s, there was a TV miniseries based on The Martian Chronicles that was really interesting too. Actually, So I have not read this book, but I've read the other book by Paolo Bacigalupi, I think it is I'm not sure how to say that name. I'm sure I've just mangled it. So the other book that's really well known, it's called The Wind-Up Girl. Oh, and it's like she's like a synth, basically, or a android. Is a good book. So I didn't realize actually that this person has written so many books, but I read The Wind-Up Girl. It's very popular, very well written. Let's see. I have not read Something Wicked This Way Comes. Let's see, we've got David Brin here. I've read, let's take a look and see what titles are listed here. Oh, I read The Postman, of course. Actually, that's probably all I've read by him. I don't see his other books listed here, unless maybe it's in the back. No, well, probably The Postman is honestly one of his most well-known books. I really like post-apocalyptic literature. That's a fun book. Let's see. Have I read Patricia Briggs? Doubt it. Sorry, I paused temporarily because there were a bunch of people in the aisle with me. And I didn't want to be in their way or have them on the video. So I have read, I think, at least the first of Jim Butcher's Dresden Files books. Which was the first one? Let me see. Take a look down here. I think they'd have a list right at the front. I think it's, there we go. Let's see, so the first one is Stormfront. I'm going to be honest, that's probably the only one I've read. I'm not generally a huge fan of what I would characterize as urban fantasy. Some books I like, but... so Harry Dresden Wizard. I did watch the TV series when it was on. Harry Dresden is the best at what he does, while technically he's the only at what he does. So when the Chicago PD has a case that transcends mortal creativity or capability, they come to him for answers. For the everyday world is actually full of strange and magical things, and most of them don't play well with humans. That's where Harry comes in, takes a wizard to catch a whatever. So there's a whole series of these books, and they give a ton of shelf space to Jim Butcher here. So this is another series of his called The Cinder Spires, which I've never even heard of, because I don't follow him at all. And then this looks like a totally different one, book 3 of the Codex Alera. So he's got 3 different series going on here, at least. Yeah, 3 different series. And then Octavia Butler. I've read Kindred. I read this for school, I believe. I think I read this. I don't know. I think I read it in school years ago. Okay, so we've got Orson Scott Card, of course. The Ender books, Ender's Game I read. And I read the first 3 books many years ago. And of the 3, this is actually my favorite, Speaker for the Dead. I actually prefer Ender's siblings to Ender himself. And they're quite big players in these books. So, and then I did read, so years later when he started doing the books about Bean, I did start reading those, but I kind of just gave up on them. It's like, I don't know, he just keeps kind of going back to this stuff, and it's just not as interesting to me anymore. Let's see, so Ender's Shadow. So Xenocide, this is so there's Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead, and Xenocide. I think that's the third one. So I read all of these when they were originally published. Let me see. All right, so let's see the date on this one. See, it's just bizarre to me. He's got the Ender universe, and then he's got the books listed not in publication order, but apparently in some sort of chronological order. So he's got Ender's Game, then Ender in Exile, then Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind. That's right, I forgot about Children of the Mind. So the original series actually has 4 books, I guess. And this one was published originally in 1991. And then I never really read his other books. Let's see, who else we got down here? I think I've read some Glenn Cook, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what. And I've read, let's see, Arthur C. Clarke. I've read Childhood's End. This was originally published in 1953. Since its publication, this prescient novel about first contact gone wrong has come to be regarded not only as a science fiction classic, but as a literary thriller of the highest order. Spaceships have suddenly appeared in the skies above every city on the planet. Inside is an intellectually, technologically, and militarily superior alien race known as the Overlords. At first, their demands seem benevolent: unify Earth, eliminate poverty, end war. But at what cost? To those who resist, it's clear that the Overlords have an agenda of their own. Has their arrival marked the end of humankind or the beginning? So, and look how short it is. It's like older novels were much shorter than novels today. So I've read that, and I've read 2001, and I've read 2010 as well. I'm looking at books that I might be interested in. I love time travel, so this caught my eye. Time Salvager by Wesley Chu. All right, what's this about? Convicted criminal James Griffin Mars is no one's hero. In his century, Earth is a toxic, abandoned world, and humans have fled into the outer solar system to survive, eking out a fragile, doomed existence among the other planets and their moons. Those responsible for delaying humanity's demise believe time travel holds the key, and they have identified James, troubled though he is, as one of a select and expendable few, ideally suited for the most dangerous job in history. All right, well, consider that another time. Okay, so next, I'm showing you the James Corey books. I haven't read any of these. However, this Sci-fi channel series, The Expanse, I just love it. It's so fantastic. And so these are definitely on my list to read. And it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3. There's a whole bunch. Okay, so Wow, there's at least 7 of them. So one of these days I will start reading them. Oh, Philip K. Dick. All right, so Philip K. Dick, one of my favorite authors, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, is the book that Blade Runner is inspired by. They're very, very different. I've read virtually all of his books, except for some of the posthumous ones. A lot of the posthumous ones are just not really like his previous works, and I read the first couple and then just gave up. So here we've got Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Scanner Darkly, Valis, Man in the High Castle. What else do we get? Paycheck. So many of these have been made into movies. Let's see. I used to have a lot of the first edition paperbacks, but they got ruined in a flood at my parents' house. So there's also like a whole group, like he wrote a ton of short stories, as well as like short novels, many, many novels, but they're all pretty short. So there's a lot of like compilations of his short stories. And one book could never, like, this isn't all of them. This is just a sampling of them. There's a lot of them. So that's one set, and then, let's see. So this one includes a lot of the ones that were inspired movies. So Total Recall, Screamers, Minority Report, Paycheck, and Next. I've seen all of these. So Total Recall, it's been made twice. First with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sharon Stone. And then the next one was with, oh God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, the Irish actor. Screamers is, this is not my day for remembering actors' names. Screamers is the guy who was the original RoboCop, Peter Weller. Minority Report, of course, is Tom Cruise. Paycheck, if I remember, is Batman. I can't. Ben Affleck. And next is My God and Yours, Nicolas Cage. So let's see, that was just right there. Oops, sorry, I'm making a mess of things. All right, so there's a few Stephen Donaldson books here. I have not read some of his major series. Like, I've not read the Thomas Covenant books. But I have read the, let me see, what is it called? Mordant's Need. So there's 2 books in Mordant's Need, A Mirror of Her Dreams and A Man Rides Through. And they're kind of like high fantasy / urban fantasy, because if I remember correctly, they take place in a fantasy world and in the 20th century, and they're so good. Those are some of the exceptions to my rule of not generally reading fantasy. Those books are excellent, both of them. I think that's probably it for these shelves. Sorry, I'm moving around a little cart with my jacket and stuff in it because it's so warm in here and I'm wearing a sweater. So Neal, is it Gaiman or Gaiman? I'm not sure how you say his name. So I've read American Gods, and is it Anansi Boys? Is that how you say it? I've read that. Those are both good. I feel like oh, here it is. I've read, this one's really good. I really enjoy this. Neverwhere. So it was originally published in 1997. So it's basically Neverwhere is a London of shadows and darkness, monsters and saints, murderers and angels that exist entirely in a subterranean labyrinth. Neverwhere is home to Dor, the mysterious girl Richard helped in the London above. Here in Neverwhere, Dor is a powerful, noble woman who has vowed to find the evil agent of her family's slaughter and thwart the destruction of this strange underworld kingdom. If Richard is ever to return to his former life and home, he must join Lady Dor's quest to save her world and may die trying. So I haven't read all of his works, but those three that I have read I really enjoyed. And then he's got a lot of books. And then we've got Neuromancer by William Gibson. I've read Neuromancer back when it was first published. And along with, let's see, Count Zero. Neuromancer, Count Zero, Burning Chrome, Mona Lisa Overdrive. And I pretty much stopped reading William Gibson after that. Like, I tried to read Virtual Light and Adora, and I honestly just couldn't get into his books anymore. I really, though, enjoyed Neuromancer. Count Zero less so, but I liked Mona Lisa Overdrive a lot. Princess Bride, absolute classic. Love the book, love the movie, by William Goldman, just a really fantastic writer. Just like doing a quick scan here. I think I might have read this. Feed. Maybe not. Oh. Yes, no, I did read this. The year was 2014. We had cured cancer. We had beaten the common cold. But in doing so, we had created something new, something terrible that no one could stop. The infection spread, virus blocks taking over bodies and minds with one unstoppable command. So, and there's a series of these. I'm normally not a big zombie fan, but if I remember correctly, these are pretty decent. So, I'm sure I've read this. I don't know if I've read the other ones. And then nothing else there, I don't believe. Okay, next aisle. So we're at Robert Heinlein now. I've read many of his books. Stranger in a Strange Land, Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I wonder if it has a list. Oh, it has quite a big list, of course. Let's see. Friday, I've read Friday. Destination Moon. I've read so many of these. Not all of them, not even close to all of them, but quite a few. So I'm not going to read them. Oh, The Cat Who Walks Through Walls. I've read that. Day After Tomorrow. Destination Moon. Friday. Puppet. I think I've read The Puppet Masters. Starship Troopers, of course. Time Enough for Love. Definitely not one of my favorites. He's a lot. He's a good writer. Classics. Frank Herbert, of course. Dune. Children of Dune. I've read most of the original Dune books, not the later ones, which I think were written by his son, right? Wool by Hugh Howey. Read this. So it looks pretty big, but if I remember correctly, this is actually like it's like a trilogy of 3 or 4 stories. 3 stories. So, looks now like there's 5 total sections. Those are good. It's another post-apocalyptic type thing. Very, like, far future post-apocalyptic. Seeing what else I've read. Ooh, K.W. Jeter. Man, I haven't thought about any of his books in a long time, but he's actually one of my favorite writers. This one's Infernal Devices. He is frequently classified as like a cyberpunk writer. And he was definitely like very much kind of not similar to Philip K. Dick, but following in his shadow. And then it's funny, he's dedicated this book to two of my other favorite writers, James Blaylock and Tim Powers. So Infernal Devices. Oh, see, this one's a steampunk novel, but his original books are, I think, probably more cyberpunkish. I don't know. Let me see if they have a list of any of his titles at all. I think, if I remember, I can't remember now if Dinner at Deviant's Palace was by K.W. Jeter or Tim Powers, but it's really good, whoever wrote it. And then these are all, his books are really good. I know you're looking at all those Robert Jordan books and saying, isn't she going to pick up one of those? And no, I actually haven't read him, and as you can imagine, it's mostly because he's like a fantasy writer. I'm not really a huge fantasy fan. Let's see, anything up here? I feel like I have read some Mercedes Lackey. I do try and give fantasy a shot. Some I like, some I'm just like, whatever. George R.R. Martin. I did try and read the Games of Thrones books. I got through the first 3, I think it is, and then they change. I think after the first 3, doesn't like pretty much all the characters you've gotten to know disappear. And I just stopped because honestly, the only character I care about in any of these books was, I think it's Tyrion. So I've read books 1, 2, and 3. And I just, honestly, I just don't care for them. I started watching the TV series as well, and I felt the same way about that. So I would often sit with the remote in my hand and fast forward through anything having to do with the Night Watch and Jon Snow. It probably makes me a terrible person, but I don't care. Ooh, Jack McDevitt. I really like Jack McDevitt. Let's see. Let's look at one I've actually read. Time Travelers Never Die. This is fun book. Let's see. So I pretty much love anything having to do with time travel. He's written quite a lot. I like a lot of his books. So he wrote this whole series called The Academy about a character called Priscilla Hutchins. It's kind of like space opera type stuff. And then he's just kind of written a whole bunch of other one-off type books. And of those, Eternity Road is probably my favorite. Oh, the Alex Benedict novels are really good too. And let's see, if I remember correctly, the Alex Benedict novels are about this like detective in the far-flung future. Very entertaining. All his books are really entertaining. So, I'll put that back. Boy, we're only up to the M's and I've already been going for 34 minutes. All right, so this almost entire section is George R.R. Martin. And it's almost just all his Game of Thrones stuff. Like, I don't see anything that's not Game of Thrones, and he's definitely written. Oh, well, there's wild cards down there. Oh, there's Night Flyers. I think that's one of his, right? Yeah? No. Honestly, I just don't really care for him as a writer. I've read some of his other books, and I wasn't crazy about them. I think the issue is I like stuff that's more fast-paced. Like, so just as an example, the Outlander series by Diane Gabaldon, like I read the first book in that series, and that was all I could tolerate. It's so slow. And the same with the TV series too. It's like it just takes so long for anything at all to happen, and I just don't care. All right, I don't see anything. Oh, actually, I've read this. This is good. I love vampires. This is very fun. So it's like a kind of reimagining of Dracula. It is 1888, and Queen Victoria has remarried, taking as her new consort the Wallachian prince infamously known as Count Dracula, whose polluted bloodline spreads through London as its citizens increasingly choose to become vampires. In the grim back streets of Whitechapel, a killer known as Silver Knife is cutting down vampire girls. The eternally young vampire Genevieve Diodon are drawn together as they both hunt the sadistic killer, bringing them ever closer to England's most bloodthirsty ruler yet. So, Kim Newman's a fun writer, and actually, I don't. So this is all of the books in Anno Dracula. So there's the Bloody Red Baron, Dracula Cha-Cha-Cha, and Johnny Alucard. And you know what? I've not read all of these. I've only read the first one, the Bloody Red Baron. I thought I saw something else I had read. This isn't what I was thinking of, but I've read this, of course. Lucifer's Hammer. Smash the end of the world with a comet. Yes. Fun book. I feel like there was something else up here I'd read. Let's just take another look through. Maybe it's just because I was thinking of Elizabeth Moon. I haven't read this book, but I've read some of her other ones. Those titles don't look familiar. I know I've read books by her, but what do we got? John Ringo. Have I read anything by John Ringo? I feel like I might have. Let's see. No. I'm not recognizing any of those titles. So maybe not. I might be thinking of someone else. Anne Rice. Yes, I actually have read most of her books, or at least the early ones. So I've read all of the Vampire Lestat books, I believe, unless she just kept writing, and then maybe I haven't. And then I read the Witching Hour books. Okay, so some of these titles I don't recognize at all. Prince Lestat and the Realms of Atlantis. Prince Lestat, The Wolves of Midwinter. I haven't read any of those. I stopped reading her books a long, long, long time ago, but most of the early ones I did read. The Mars books by Kim Stanley Robinson is actually another favorite writer of mine. Let's see. I think there's 3 total. Let's just take a look at all his titles. So, I've read the Mars trilogy, the 3 California series, which is really good, Wild Shore, The Gold Coast, and Pacific Edge, Memory of Whiteness, Antarctica. I think I've read The Martians. I've read quite a few, and then, like, I go back and forth with certain authors, where I, like, read a lot of their stuff in a row, and then just forget all about them. So I haven't read this one. This was published in 2015, I think. Yeah, see, and I haven't read this. Let's see. The year is 2312. Scientific and technological advances have opened gateways to an extraordinary future. Earth is no longer humanity's only home. New habitats have been created throughout the solar system, on moons, planets, and in between. But in this year, 2312, a sequence of events will force humanity to confront its past, its present, and its future. Actually, doesn't really tell me anything about that book. So kind of like space opera stuff, hard science, like far future, post-apocalyptic type stuff. Red Moon. That's actually a beautiful cover. I really like that. Those are nice. Those are good books. I think we're getting close to the end. Oh, let's see. I have not read any of Sanderson. And you can tell just by the covers why I have not. I have read John Scalzi, and I feel like he's one of these guys who's like super controversial on the internet, but his books are really good. I haven't read all of them, but I've read this one, Old Man's War, which is excellent. I've read Old Man's War and the Ghost Brigades. I think I've read The Android's Dream and Last Colony as well. The rest of these I have not read. So Old Man's War is basically they take older men and throw them into younger bodies. I don't know, these books are really good. And actually, this is on my list of books to read. Lock In. It's about all these people who get infected by locked-in syndrome, and basically they're fully aware and awake, but they can't move or respond to anything, etc. I haven't read this, but it's on my list to read. Actually, how much is this? $8.99? I could read it on paper, I guess. I don't read a lot of paper anymore. Ooh, John Sanford. Why? Oh, that is not a science fiction novel. That is a mystery novel. One of these days, I will go over the mystery section and show you all the books I've read in the mystery section. If I did that today, this video would never end. I read, like, in a couple of different genres. Let's see. Oh, Neal Stephenson, one of my favorite writers. Snow Crash. let's see. I'm trying to think. Diamond Age, I think, is my favorite of his. I think that's what it's called. So I've read The Big U, Zodiac, Snow Crash, The Diamond Age, and Kryptonomicon. Well, I have not. Cryptonomicon, I have not. I have read. The Baroque Cycle, I gave up on. It's enormous and very dense, and I was like, I can't get into it. So, but The Diamond Age is not overblown like some of his other books and more recent books. Like, I feel like the longer he's been writing, the longer his books get. But The Diamond Age is really good. And then this is the guy I was talking about earlier. S.M. Sterling kind of writes these books where basically technology stops working for no apparent reason. And so everyone has to act like druids and witches and pagans and everything else. And I read the first couple of these change novels, they call them, a novel of the change. But they annoy the shit out of me. And so does his book, The Island in the Sea of Time series, which are also like a separate series of the novels of the change. And like pretty much most of his characters are super annoying. So I stopped reading them. But he did write this book, which I can't remember the title. Let me see if it's in here. Conquistador. Conquistador is about these rich people who basically go back in time to prior to when Europeans came to North America, and they exploit the shit out of everything. It sounds terrible, but it's actually a really good book. It's like really interesting story. And it's one book, not 20 books, not 20 annoying books. It's one book. And actually that's like the one thing where I think I could read another book about those characters. They were interesting, or just different characters in the same time period. Sorry, I'm dropping stuff. Stuff on the ground. Oh my god. Okay, what else we got? Let's see, we looked at Stephenson. I have read the Tolkien Lord of the Rings series, or rather, I've read The Hobbit and read The Fellowship of the Ring and gave up halfway through The Two Towers. However, the movies are some of my favorites. Let's see, Children of Time. Have I read this? I'm losing my voice. I'm not going to read it. Let's see, so we're almost at the end here. I want to see if there's anybody else particularly noteworthy that I want to mention. And I think that's it. So now we're moving into books based on movies and video games, none of which I've read. So, actually, speaking of fantasy books that I really enjoy, this entire T.H. White series about Merlin and King Arthur is excellent. The Once and Future King. So, and then there's the Book of Merlin, England Have My Bones. I don't think I've read all of them. I think I've read 3. It's actually, the pages of this is really different than all the other books here. This feels nice. So those are good. The Once and Future King. Let's see. Okay. Arthur, King of the Britons. Well, I think that is pretty much it. I know there's a bunch of authors I probably left out. I was just kind of using the bookstore to jog my memory about people. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I didn't talk too fast through all of it.